Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to DevToberFest Week 1, Day 4, which is the Data and AI category. I'm here with three lovely people. We've got going clockwise. I'm just making this up as I go along. I have no idea what I'm doing. We've got Carlos, we've got Sally, and we've got Mirela. And say hi, folks.
Hey,
Hello,
hello everybody.
welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Excellent. That's a good start. That was always a test with people to see how enthusiastically you say hello. So, Sally, you've got a question for the audience already. Do you want me to send that already, or and how?
Not yet. Well,
Okay,
you could start with Carlos, then we'll send
perfect,
it. Thank
perfect,
you.
perfect. So this is a session about AI agents. This is AI agents at work, and we're going to have a little bit of a chat that will hopefully take us, as it says in the title as well, from buzzword to from hand wavy to concrete to business impact. These lovely people are experts from the App House in Palo Alto, but I'm going to ask them about what the heck an App House is in a second. First of all, I'm going to hand over to the three and get them to introduce yourself. So, Carlos, why don't you go first?
Oh, thank you very much, DJ. Actually, let me do something interesting with that. Meanwhile, I present myself. This is Carlos Estala. I'm enterprise architect in the App House. So you are welcome to our App House in Palo Alto. And you can see that basically this is our space of innovation. We actually have the space where we try to bring customers, we try to explain what the possibilities of SAP, innovation, AI agents, artificial intelligence, and everything possible with the BTP and the power of SAP. But I've been in the company for 18 years. So basically, I know SAP from top to bottom or bottom to top, wherever you believe. And I'm the enterprise architect. And something in particular, actually, I'm co-leading what is called the App House Partner Network. So this is how we extend the innovation with SAP with partners to strengthen our methodology, our teams, and also the partners. They have similar spaces, as you can see in here, to promote the innovation and actually to go further with solving the problems and business use problems. That's who I am.
Excellent. What a great start. Thanks, Carlos. So, how about you, Sally?
All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, whatever time it is in your part of the world. So I work with Carlos in our app house in Palo Alto. I lead co-innovation projects with our customers and partners using SAP technology and leveraging our human-centered approach to innovation. And I have been with SAP a little bit longer than Carlos, but delighted to be here today to share with you and talk about AI agents, which is a hot topic these days.
It certainly is. Okay, over to you, Mirela.
All right, thank you guys. My name is Mirella. I also work together with Carlos and Sally at the App House in Palo Alto. I'm a project manager at the App House, so I support customers through their innovation journeys. I've been with SAP for 10 years now, so super excited to be here today and share with you guys a little bit more about what we do, how we incorporate AI agents with customers. So very looking forward for that. Back to you,
Brilliant.
DJ.
Thank you very much. And we've got lots of people in the chat as well. So thanks for saying hello, Vitali and Matthias and Anthony and Zdenek and lots of other people as well. So give us your thoughts, give us your questions. I can relay them to the team here. We'd love to know what you're thinking as well. What I'm thinking is, I think we should start by maybe quizzing Sally. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about, what are AI agents? I mean, it's one of the most talked about innovations in the enterprise space in the AI topic, in recent times. But have I got my brain correctly around it? Let's maybe start by talking about what they are.
Yes, absolutely. And I have a question that DJ's going to relay and put in the chat. We're looking for you to respond to. And the question is, what percentage of AI AI agent projects will be canceled by the end of 2027. So just put your first, you don't have to think long and hard about it. Just put your first, what's that first number that pops in your head? We're going to come back to that, but want to get you, our audience, thinking about this as we dive into our topic on AI agents. So AI agents, they are a system that can act autonomously to achieve a goal using artificial intelligence. So these AI agents, they can perform very complex tasks independently. That's the autonomously. And they can do it on behalf of the user, so behalf of us or an organization. Uh, and the types of tasks that they can do, they can make plans, they can make decisions, they can take actions all on their own, and they can work across they can do multiple steps, and they can work across systems. So I say it's that digital coworker. I want my human coworkers. I won't Carlos and Marilla, but you can think of this AI agent as that digital coworker. And it's because of their ability to to do these complex tasks that this is where the transformation is happening in how work is done or how work will be done, because we're just stepping into this whole new world with AI agents.
Fantastic answer. I mean, Mirela or Carlos, do you have anything else to add here?
Yes, and actually, this digital copilot that Sally mentioned, beside the traditional processes where we have automation or traditional AI, where we have only inside of one problem, the agent actually will act on your behalf. So this is the power, because the agent will perceive information, will make a reason on that, and is going to take an action. So to do a reasoning, artificial reasoning, it need to create a plan. And for the plan, he need to understand the environment, and is going to use tools. So that's why it's very important when we talk about agents, we also talk about the tools that we are going to provide to this digital assistant. If I wanted to make a digital assistant specialized in taxes, of course, I need to provide my information, my tax information, the year, the country, and all this information will be tools that will be assigned to the copilot to make my tax declaration, in this case, to act on behalf of me. So that's why it's very important to understand this correlation between perceiving information, reasoning, and acting, take an action. That's the difference.
Excellent, excellent. I mean, one of the things that I sometimes struggle with my small brain understanding new technology is that we have to talk about it at a fairly high level first of all, clearly, to sort of get the big picture. But it's only really when we start to sort of get to the place where the rubber meets the road that understanding, is sort of fleshed out a little bit. So, maybe other folks in the chat are thinking about this as well. But I would like to augment what you've just said with maybe some concrete use cases. But that makes me think, how, what are these use cases? Can you give us an example? How basically do you find use cases that would be amenable to augmenting with AI agents?
I think there are many use cases, but I guess literally Mirela can let us
Yeah,
know
I
about
can
that.
take that one, DJ.
Yeah.
So recently we worked with a customer from Mexico. They're in the agribusiness sector, and it was so interesting. We have this unique methodology to identify AI use cases. So we ran those sessions with the customer, and we were able to identify a very curious use case. So they had a clear challenge that was, how can they assess if that customer, their customer,
Mhm.
is reliable enough so they can provide credit? So besides, so in the agribusiness, it's very common for companies to provide credit to their customers. And in order to do that, you have to go through multiple assessments. So you have to do a background check with that customer. And in their past process, I'm not even gonna say SEs because it's not in SEs anymore. They had to read all those manual documents, collect the data, process the data, everything very manually. So the curious thing is that, and the most interesting thing is that through our methodology, through the App House methodology, we were able to identify this challenge and design a AI agent that would help them read through those documents, extract the data, and give recommendations. So once they extract the data from those documents, our AI can provide a score to that customer. So based on our on the AI analysis,
Hmm.
of course, we also provided some rules to that AI. It provides the score and tells, this customer, this Mexican customer, hey, your customer has this score. It's a good, good customer for you to give them the loan. And here are some recommended next steps. So I
That's
think
a
this
great
is a
example.
great example of how the AI agent can perform multiple tasks. So here we're talking about this agentic process, because it's not just one agent, multiple agents working together to collect the data, read the documents, provide search on a third-party websites as well to collect more data, come back, analyze everything, and then provide the recommendation. So, I mean, it is bringing them so many benefits that I can share more if you're interested
Yeah,
in.
and maybe putting on top a little bit of exactly this agent that we are talking about. Remember that there are two kind of agents. We have content-based agents that literally you are going to use in the SAP terms. You are going to use the Joule Studio to do your Joule agent, or before, now for the technical people, we used to have the agent builder where you do the agent content base. But what about the case that actually we are talking about? In this particular case, understanding all the requirements, it was necessary to code something. So that's why we are now, this is the portion of the agent code base. So in a way, you are using Python, you are using the connection to the BTP to use the LLM, where you actually start creating content. So this is the two kind of branches that the technical people will understand, that basically I'm using the BTP, Joule, or Agent Builder for the content base, or I will use the code base where you start coding based on the needs of your customer.
Perfect, perfect. Now, just going back to what you said, Marilla, I have some more questions about how the App House approaches these sorts of projects and everything. I think you have a specific design methodology. I'm going to ask that in a minute. But before I do, it's something that you just said, but also reminded me of what Carla said earlier about what I'm going to call grounding, to use an AI specific term. When you were talking about supplying the credit score type data and supplying the data for the example you gave, Carlos, are we talking here about what I and maybe other people understand to be context engineering? Is this in the context of something that gets then sent to the LLM to be realized by these individual agents? Are there basically agent specific contexts that have to be managed?
That's it, DJ. So I think you just got it right. Seems like you were in the project. You just, you just explained exactly what we used here. So it is AI agent context based. It's so particular, this type of scenario where you have specific legal documents that you have to analyze. You have to analyze the customer credit score as well. Of course, that it's a little bit different. We're in the US here, but in Mexico, it's a little bit different, the concept of credit score, but you also have to do those type of analysis. So it's all AI context based here. And then, yeah, we do have LLM that supports us with all the extraction of those data and analyzing those data. But we also have some rule based
Hmm.
here behind the scenes because imagine for each type of customers, you have to define a threshold. So let's say for this customer, based on his history, we can only provide up to X amount of dollars of loan. So all those rule-based that is so specific to the company was also added to this solution.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, fantastic.
And one thing very fast, because I guess you also hit the point that if every time that we are talking with the customers, the first thing that the customer is asking and he wanted to have an answer is, what about my information? What about my secret sauce if I'm using an LLM? Because at the end, we are sending information to the LLM through the Business AI Hub with the core AI. And what happened with my information? And exactly SAP, have these legal contracts between SAP and the LLMs. And one of the rules actually mentioned that the information need to be encrypted, by the way. But the information that we are sending to the LLM, this is not going to be used to train their models. So if we are sending some information, they are not allowed to use our information to retrain their models based on this requirement. But more important, when we are talking with the customer and we understand the process, we identify that certain information should not go in the LLM, and you need to use the vector, HANA vector engine, literally to vectorize this information or to capture certain information outside of the LLM.
Mhm.
That's why these workshops and this analysis, they are very important. And we exactly talk about that.
Because
And that ties into the SAP's AI strategy. If you've heard and responsible, Carlos
Exactly.
is talking about this key, the responsibility, but it's about the safety, the security of your data and knowing where your data is going, knowing how your data as a customer is being used.
Gotcha, gotcha. I'd love to come back to SAP HANA Cloud and the AI foundations and the capabilities that we have in there in order to do that sort of segmentation and fragmentation. But I'm dying to know more about just going back to Mirella and the use case and everything. I mean, in our discussion just before we started, we talked a little bit. You mentioned that you have this sort of, what was it, a human-centric approach to innovation. Sally, maybe could you tell us a little bit about that?
I can talk about that definitely. So I mentioned that the App House we use a human-centered approach. If you've heard the term design thinking, it's that foundation. But instead of saying design thinking, I talk about the human-centered approach, and the human-centered because it's putting us as the humans in the center of that. But
Why
what's
am I thinking of
unique
Skynet right now?
but what's unique about this is we actually combined the human centered, the design thinking with the architecture thinking. Carlos is one of our enterprise architects, and we bring those two together for in our approach, in our projects. Morella mentioned references to our methodology, and so we have workshops, AI workshops. We have AI workshops for our business AI, but we also have AI agents. So we have an AI agent discovery and design workshop, and so infused into these workshops is this human-centered and design thinking approach.
Ah, okay, okay, that's right. And are these workshops virtual or are they physical? Are they over on the West Coast or?
The workshops are everywhere. They are in person. We have virtual. We even have, and it's been what I call an explosion of demand for these AI agent where we're doing little mini sessions at events. Carlos, myself, and our colleague Frank together with Paul Conchina and our enterprise architects community mid-August. We did an AI agent event for architects in our app house in Palo Alto, sold out to customers. Actually, yesterday there was a similar event in Newtown Square, and next week, October 7th and 9th, there'll be another variation in Berlin. So
Okay.
these are, and when I say a mini, this is like the couple hour version of what's about a 6 hour, kind of think of it close to 3/4 of a day, the discovery and design workshop, but they are happening in person, virtually. What's key for these is we look to have from the customers to bring both IT and the business together, and that's essential. That's when we're planning these workshops with customers. While it can be done with IT, it's essential that we have business at the table, because the what we call the use case Marilla was sharing around these credit checks or credit verifications, that use case or scenario that comes from the business.
Yes.
And we have to be solving those business problems. And that's what these workshops that we've designed help customers do.
And now it's great that you mentioned, the business is the most important part
Correct.
part of this sort of this team here. It reminds me of one of the enduring CAP philosophies, which is all about the business expert, the domain expert. So, in the same sort of way, I would say, as a developer, I would say that the last few years have been a year of the developer, and the architects have taken a bit of a back seat. But actually, in this new age of AI and agents and the whole sort of landscape that we're sort of working our way through and inventing as we go along, architects are becoming, well, not becoming more, they always were important, but they're becoming more at the fore again, right? So obviously we've got Carlos here. Now, something else you mentioned in our pre-go live chat was this Lean Enterprise Architecture Toolkit, right? And you use that somehow. I'm hoping you'll tell me how, and tell the audience how you use that with this methodology that Sally's just talked about, right?
Yeah, totally. And I think exactly just combining your words with Sally's and the use case from Mirella, if we start talking about, for example, a use case where the business is not involved, then there is no actually benefit for the company. So that's why we initiated always with the business. But in terms of the technical portion and the enterprise architect that goes with the customer and also comes every time that you involve the app house, we have the enterprise architect, we have the designer and also the project lead. In this case, what we do is that our strength as the app house, following our methodology, is that we exactly connect these two perspectives. We use the methodology from human-centered approach to innovation to gather the request from the customers, but initiating from the end user, understanding who is using the process. And then we use this Lean Enterprise Architecture Toolkit that, if you allow me, I will share very fast with you. And the thing is, for the enterprise architects, and maybe people in the audience, they are already enterprise architects. They know TOGAF methodology, and they know that there is Lean architecture. So one of the things that is very important, at least in terms of the technical portion, is I will share my screen if you don't mind.
Yeah, share screen.
Then is, first of all, I guess you are really interested to understand about our methodology. So in a way, we place all this information, as I mentioned before. First of all, we initiated gathering or receiving all the customer problem, the use case, and the business needs. And for that, we use the design thinking. But in order to understand how feasible is to provide a solution for this use case, we have the architectural thinking that basically we use exactly our toolkit. And in the toolkit, for people in the audience that they are enterprise architect, probably you know this enterprise architecture metro map, where they have different phases, and we call it assets, where you start collecting information for the business, but also for the technical people. At the end, if I'm going to provide a solution, I needed to be sure that the solution is part of the methodology, but also part of the roadmap of SAP. I will not suggest something that is going to be deprecated in a couple of weeks later, but this methodology that you can see here is the enterprise SAP architecture. But in our toolkit, you can actually see in a way side by side that we created a strategy map. We also collect information from the stakeholders. We prepared a solution context diagram. And this information will help the stakeholders, which they are not technical guys. They need to understand that for this solution, we are going to bring information from certain place. But during the whole journey, where the enterprise architect is involved, later is going deeper and deeper in the technical solution. So for the customer side and the technical people in there, which they are always an expert on their solution, we propose solution concept, we propose the solution realization diagram, the architectural decisions, and many times we provide the architectural roadmap because you cannot achieve or you cannot solve the problem in one shot. We actually, many times we try to go in phases. Like all the developers, they have cycles, so we have phases. And in a way, we try to provide all the solution in a way that a roadmap can help you to understand that. For example, in the case of the Sahal customer from Mirella, we initiated in the beginning using build apps and process automation, and later they become an expert. But now that they understand the concept of the tools in BTP and the portfolio build, now the next step is literally to show that you are very close to enable AI. So you are going to use a generative AI hub to achieve your next step. And this is what is included on the roadmap. Maybe the first step is just completing one use case, but we can go on the next steps in the roadmap, in this journey that we are going to go together. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So
Thanks for sharing that, Carlos.
And so what Carlos was sharing from is what we call our innovation toolkit. So I mentioned earlier about this AI agent discovery and design workshop. So all of the assets, the materials, the agendas, that content is available in that innovation toolkit. And so for the AI agents, this discovery workshop, or in the discovery workshop, what we do is we will, as I said, we'll bring together the business and the IT, but the goal of the discovery workshop is to identify the use cases or the scenarios with strategic business value. And we're also taking a look at, because when people are identifying their challenges and we're coming up with use cases, we're evaluating how agentic, we call it the agenticness of the use case. So it may be low, it may be middle, or it may be high. So as you know, Marilla was talking about, so if it's really deterministic, it's very rules based, that's what we call a low agenticness. So that is one that the business most likely that use case, that problem, that challenge can be solved with our business AI, and isn't something where the AI agents are needed. And you also have to, and so you don't want to be using the more than you need, because there's also cost factors involved. So we want to make sure if we're going to build a use case for AI agents, that it's a use case that is suited for agents.
I love the word agenticity, although I do think we might have
agenticness. We have like middle, we have low, middle, and high.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because I was thinking
agenticness. I don't know. That's what we call it.
I don't know. I think I prefer agenticity because that was my mistake.
Then. Okay.
Anyway, it sounds like an album from Gary Newman or something from the 1970s.
Right.
Anyway,
so that's the discovery workshop. And then in the design, okay, once we agree, like in Marilla's example with the customer, so they selected this challenge. They have the use case around the credit verification. And this question, whether do we extend credit to this this potential customer or not. So then in the design, what we're doing is we're defining what is the knowledge and the skills that your agent needs. What's the tools that they need? And where is the human in the loop? What's that interaction flow between the agent and the human? This is the information that is needed to build that agent. And that's what we're doing in the design workshop.
Gotcha. So I've got another question now related to what Carlos, you were saying just before. I don't know whether it's Mirella or you, Carlos, will answer. I'll give you the question now, but before I get you to answer the question, I'm going to turn to the answers from our audience here to the questions that Sally posed, and we'll talk about those. Then we'll go back to the question, which is basically, you've had your workshop, you've got the use case, it's been identified. Yeah, we're going to do this. Now, going back to what you were talking about before, Carlos, as the architect, saying, well, some of the solutions, the agentic solutions, are sort of dual based, sort of, in my small brain, building block based, and some are custom. You mentioned Python, for example, which is, of course, a very popular language in general, but specifically in this space, it is a go-to language for building solutions like this. I would love to know at what point and how you decide, which route to take, whether it's a dual based or a custom based. But before we do that, before we answer that question, I'll let you answer that question. The first question you asked, Sally, was what percentage of AI agent projects will be cancelled by the end of 2020, which sounds like really far in the future, but it's only like, a couple of years away. And we got Zdenek saying 50%, Antonio 40%, Vignesh 40%, Matthias 50%, Vitaly 111%. You glass half empty, Vitaly, sort your life out. Anthony 40%. So Eduardo says 35% to be cancelled, but given the frameworks for content-based agents being released, I'd say most agents will be content-based. So what do you say to that, folks?
All right. We have a very, very smart audience. And this is from a Gartner study, and they estimated around 40%. So most of those, that 50%, I think it could be higher. If I had to, it's based on their research, but if I was giving the answer, I probably would have said closer to 50%. And what's interesting, if you take the next question, is what are the two biggest reasons why will those AI agent projects fail?
Can you see the chat there, Sally? Yeah, you can see the chat, can't you? Yeah.
I can't, but you could tell me, did you put in any questions on the biggest reasons?
Yes, so I put that question in as well, and
okay.
Zdenek says wrong data. Eduardo also says sort of because of issues providing the correct context, right? Tools and data. And Antonio says escalating costs, unclear business value, inadequate risk controls. And Vitaly, always the most astute one, my lovely friend and colleague, who I learned everything that I know, which is not very much, from about this area, is you need working APIs. And those working APIs are in human control, meaning there may be errors. To err is human, right?
Yes. So, and all of those are reasons, and there's a lot more for why they could fail. The research identified the top two issues that they identified, and someone from our audience called out this cost piece and the escalating, the increasing cost, and that's why I said when part of our workshop we evaluate the agenticness, because you want to make sure for an AI agent use case that the business is getting the value for it. But then the other big piece is the related to the business value. And this is why it's essential for us to have business at the table. It's essential that we're solving real business problems, because we've had the IT can come in or customers can come in and we have the request. I mean, this was back when blockchain was all the rage, and suddenly you pick a technology, it's blockchain. When our business AI was first coming out, we picked the business AI, we picked the AI agent. And so we pick a technology and then we run around searching for a problem for that. And instead it's if you want to deliver that strategic business value, you don't start with the technology, you start with the problem. And that's the unclear, the unmet business value that they expect will contribute to a large percentage of these AI AI agent projects failing.
Exactly. In fact, I was teasing the audience there with a half a quote to "Err is human," and of course it comes from the 18th century essay where the full quote is "To err is human, to forgive divine." But what I was really referring to was Paul Ehrlich, the American scientist, and the quote goes, I think, "To err is human. To really foul things up, you need a computer." So I thought that plays very well into this discussion, which I love. Anyway, I think a lot of people were on the mark with the reasons why these things fail. Could I bring us back now to that question about, the next step, closer to a solution? Is it a custom job, or is it a dual based sort of building block type approach? How is that decision made?
I think we have a very interesting tool that supports us. And Carlos, you want to give us the pleasure and sharing about that one, if we can identify if it's a dual use case or if it's a custom AI use case.
Yes, totally. And I think we will have actually, just to go deeper in this tool that we call it the Solution Advisor, we are going to have a session in 2 weeks and where we are going to go deeper on that. But one of the things that I wanted to kind of spoil a little bit is that behind this tool that helps us to gather the use case and first of all identify if SAP have something already embedded to cover this necessity, because this is important. If I'm going to implement something to solve my problem, first of all, I want to know if there is something already there. Is there an agent? Is that a new feature, or is something? And you know that all this information is actually captured in our Discovery Center in the portion of the business AI. But one thing that we are using, SAP uses SAP. So one of the things that we are using is literally using the power of the agent to determine from the beginning of the workshop, during the workshop, and at the end of the workshop, we tried literally to find out and correlate this information to know if we need to customize something, either content-based or code-based, or we are going to enable something that it already exists in the SAP portfolio. So let me share something very fast.
Cool.
For the audience, I guess. And I will literally make a statement in here.
Yes.
A disclaimer very fast. Probably you know what is the agent builder, but for people that is very technical, they will literally understand that this service probably is going to be deprecated soon, because we are going to use Joule Studio inside of the build. And in Joule, you will be able to create what we call it the skills and what we call it agents. And just to jump very fast on this topic, when we have an skill is what we usually call it, that is the deterministic use case based on rules, like exactly Sally mentioned before. And when we are talking about agent, is that there is not a clear path to answer this thing. So I need to do a reasoning. I will use my tools. This copilot is going to identify what is going to be the best scenario and then provide an action item or an action on this thing. So that's why now for the technical people, then you have this service that we call it the agent builder. Inside of the agent builder, we will create this agent that we identify with our templates. Usually we use this kind of templates to identify how agentic or deterministic it is.
Actually, Carlos, sorry to interrupt, Carlos. Before you go on, can you just do maybe a Command plus to bump up the font of one more, maybe on your keyboard? Command plus should. No. Ooh. If you hit, it's a Mac, but you've got an Apple Mac, haven't you? So
yeah,
of course.
There we go. Perfect. Oh, you can go one less if you want, but that's, yeah.
Okay. So basically, for people that is in the audience, this is your BTP instance. Usually, you as a customer, you have a global account, and probably you have multiple sub accounts. This depends on the scenarios that you are going to work. In this particular case, as I mentioned, we are going to talk about the solution advisor. But one of the things that we have in here is the service that we call it the agent builder. And this agent builder, we are going to create together with the customer. We are going to create this agent, but I need to identify the tools that I will provide to this copilot. So that's why it's very important when we talk about this conversation with the customer that some of the information that the agent will gather to answer and take an action should come from your destination. So this means that I will actually pass information from my backend system, my S/4HANA, my customer experience on external APIs. So that's why destination in this particular topic is very important, because at the end, our agent, either a Joule skill or Joule agent, will require these tools and they will require this information. So as a matter of example, I will show you what we have in this agent builder is we have our agent. And basically this agent, just to put it in the context, we mentioned that this is an expert that we will, of course, we will talk directly about that. Is going to help us to do this matching, as I mentioned before. I'm using one of the version, and this is what is important. Every time that we create an agent, and Sally just mentioned before, we needed to be sure that we are not going to tackle something deterministic because we are going to use tokens. And for something so simple like a deterministic use case, we are going to spend a lot of tokens. And that's why when the agent will do the planning, the first thing that we will receive is maybe you can use a mini version of the LLM. So it's not going to be so expensive as you expected. But when I need to do the reasoning, I will use a better model to actually capture this information. And in particular, this agent, I'm providing certain tools. These tools are a calculation or a calculator to do some simple calculus. I will connect to my application that contains an API. So I'm using an API as a connector. And important, I'm using, for example, my backend system require what I mentioned before, the destination that is going to be used through the ANO data. So in this case, I will bring information from my S/4HANA system, and then I will do a test. So in this particular case, what I notice is that every time that we are talking about agents, and I mentioned that there is kind of an intelligence on understanding and making a reason to answer this question, a lot of people get confused, like, but how this information is coming to life? So let's make very simple example. In this case, I mentioned, hey, give me the last 15 sales orders from 2025. I didn't mention, hey, go to the backend system, do some calculation, and nothing at all. But the agent, using the tools that we provided before, is going to do something very interesting. That is the planning and reasoning. And you can see that here is taking a little bit time. But I just wanted to show you that it doesn't matter that later this agent builder will not be available, but it's going to be part, of course, the inside of the Joule Studio. But here we can see that receiving a prompt like give me the last 15 sales order or service order, then the agent will identify that, oh, okay, for this question, I needed to gather maybe information, not from the calculator, not from the web search. I will actually find out if I have access to an API. And for that, it looks inside of the OR data tool, and it understands that inside of this connector, there is a method get to retrieve information. Then the agent will actually prepare the statement to bring this information, and then the information is going to be passed to the agent. And in here, this is very interesting because the first interaction results that there is no information for that. Let's make another reasoning. Let's get the method, but with different information. Now we are passing certain time frame, and the agent will actually understand, oh, here there is a positive answer. Let me prepare some information from you. And then at the end, we are only answering that all the information will be placed for you, and these are the 15 sales orders. So you can see that the agent actually does all this reasoning and planning back and forth in order to answer this question and to take an action, meaning I will post if I wanted to do some posting, like please post this sales order directly in my system. Then it will understand that all the magic happens around that. And I think this is something interesting for people that is in the audience. We are now talking about the content base. So we are exactly using this advantage that we define exactly during the workshop. We identify if it could be content based or code based on the information that the customer requires. If we
Right.
needed to collect more information, then we will do some code based. No?
Gotcha. Gotcha. In fact, talking of the audience and the customer, and everything, if you've got any questions, stick them in the chat because we've got, what, 15 minutes left maximum. I have a question. Now, Sally, you mentioned this toolkit when you were talking about the human-centric approach and everything, and there was also an innovation toolkit. Is that something that's proprietary that you use at the App House, or can other folks use it? Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Absolutely. Yes, we use it at the App House. Everything all of the content that is in this innovation toolkit was designed by App House team members. This is what we use in our co-innovation projects with customers and partners, and we have made it available. It is a free resource. It's
Awesome.
design assets. So I talked about our AI agent discovery and design workshop. You have, and we talked about it can be in person and virtual. So if you're doing in person, we have all of the physical. Carlos was holding up let's see, the prints. A little hard to do it, but we have like physical worksheets for these exercises for the in-person. If you need to run it virtually or some sort of hybrid, we also have, we leverage Mural, and we have Mural templates set up. We have agendas, we have exercises for these, and any other design related resources. It's all available for free for anyone, and we can we'll have to I'll send you the chat, or sorry, I'll send you the link and you can put it in the chat for
I
people.
did that for you, Sally.
Oh, you already did it.
It's in the
Woohoo,
chat,
thank
guys,
you.
so you
Yes,
can
you read my mind, because
I did.
that's important. It's a free resource, and I mean, we've had people from the outside, partners, sometimes even it just external people are amazed at the content in there and amazed that we have put that out there. Everything is tried and tested because it comes from what we're doing with our customers, and if we're using it and it works for us,
Yeah.
we're putting it out there, making it available.
Awesome. So basically, this discovery and design workshop, the resources are free and available in this App
Yes.
House Innovation Toolkit from you for free.
Absolutely. Yes. All right.
Amazing.
Just get that link out to people.
So, okay, cool. In fact, Eric in the chat has just asked a question, and I'll relay that. A very simple question. Is MCP enabled for agents?
Good question. I guess I think
You're
you
talking
will
about
hear
the
about
multi-channel processing, which MCP.
between the agents, there should be a way, actually, it's a protocol to talk between agents. And recently, actually, SAP have some conversation with the LLMs or the people that is creating agents. So that's why, in order to communicate one agent from SAP to an external partner or whoever is creating another agent, the way to connect is this protocol. They call it MCP. The idea is that in order to standardize this thing, there should be some alignment between the companies. That's why SAP is one of the first companies that made it this kind of alignment between Google and also AWS in order to use this MCP. At this moment, it's not in there, but we are going actually doing big steps to achieve that. But when you are, let's say, now doing code base and you wanted to connect with another agent, meanwhile, you can leverage other kind of MCPs, but we are on the way to do that. And soon you will hear about this MCP for SAP. No?
Excellent. So we're talking about the Model Context Protocol, right, Carlos?
Exactly.
Okay.
Cool. Zdenek says, please could you share the URL of the scheme which Carlos showed at the beginning? So basically, folks, anything that Carlos and Mirella and Sally have shared that are shareable beyond this session here with URLs and everything, they'll send me an email with the links and I'll add them to the description of this YouTube video. So you can all get that later. And if there's anything else, we can share them with the way we normally share Devtoberfest resources. As usual, in the usual place. So don't worry about that, Zdenek, but thank you for asking. I guess we're almost at the end, right? So I'm going to give you the chance, though, to each give the audience your final thoughts, and maybe your thoughts into where this is going in terms of real life enterprise on the ground solutions.
Yeah, I can give my impression. So I think that it really depends on where you're gonna use your agents. We've seen that for some companies, especially when, for example, to answer questions your customers have, right? So, you don't need a person to do that through a chat. You can have an agent replying directly to frequent asked questions. We've seen that being used a lot. But when it comes to, for example, invoice processing, where it's a use case where it requires a more careful analysis, because that could lead to a big problem if something goes wrong. We see the agent being used as an assistant.
Yeah.
So we've seen more the agent being used as an assistant as of today. But as I mentioned in the first example, if it's a chat that you have to answer questions to your customers, you have like a digital store, for example, and there's some questions coming in, you can definitely use the agent by itself. So my point here is really depending on the use case you have, the agent can help you perform different tasks. So that's like my takeaway.
Awesome. Thanks, Mila.
All right, I'll jump in. We are just at the beginning of this journey with AI agents. I mean, most of us are not using agents in our daily work, and Chat GPT, as it can do all sorts of things, but that's not it. That's not an agent in the way that we're talking about the system and these complex tasks. So that's why I say we're just starting the journey, and I think we have to figure out what are those business challenges where agents can help. What are those complex tasks that we can identify and build these agents? But then there's also, that means change is hard, and transformation is about change. That's what a transformation is. It's rooted in change, and humans, we tend to be resistant. Many of us tend to be resistant to change, and we don't want to work differently, or there's the fear of AI and agents replacing humans, being replaced by the technology. And last night I was leading we had our Women in Data Science event at SAP at the App House in Palo Alto, and one of the panelists said, it's not, our whole night was on AI agents, and it's like, the agent isn't going to replace your job, or replace you for that job. It's going to be the person who knows how to use and is willing to work with that AI agent. That's going to be the person that can replace you. And I just thought that was, a very, kind of the thinking of, we all need to be learning about it and open to this change and creating that new way of working.
Nice indeed. In fact, Carlos, it's your turn, but I'm maybe going to throw a question at you to answer from Ajit, who's just asked it in the chat. Last question, I think, which is it's a really good one as well. How do we ensure that the agents remain transparent, especially when they make autonomous decisions in complex business environments? Nice one, Ajit.
Great
Mhm.
question.
I
Yeah.
think it's a great question because at the end, you know that at the end, the artificial intelligence could fail and will fail, but we need to be prepared for that. We actually um, we need to accept a certain tolerance of what is going to be this copilot is going to be acceptable for an action. So in a way, we really need to be sure that we first of all we ground the information for this agent. He's going to have the enough tools to do the proper reasoning and then the action. But if I will place the agent to perform something that is going to be very impactful for the company, I will actually, in the beginning, my recommendation will be that a human need to actually
Mhm.
do the first revision. Later, I guess with the time we are going to reach the level of that the agent will have all the understanding, but all these variables that run us around could run in a different expectation that the business is having. And what about if the product is going to be sold at a lower market and then you are losing money? So at the end, I think we are going to run, or we are already in the race of these agents, and we needed to actually perform all this human interaction in the best way. At the end, the human is the one that will take the responsibility for that. Remember that at
Mhm.
the end, you are the developer and you are the technical guy, but there is an accountability for this. So that's
Yeah.
very important, and I think maybe complemented with my last piece of comments. A couple of weeks back, we have the opportunity to meet here in SAP with Andrew Ng. You know that he's actually the inventor of the agentic topic, and he actually finalized with a quote that I really like it. And Sally, maybe I'm taking this quote from you because we were
It's
seated
okay.
together,
Go for it.
and literally it was impacting my whole workshops from after I hear him, because he mentioned that every time we are asking what the AI can do for the humanity or for us, I think we are doing the wrong question, because we needed to be sure that we use the AI in the proper way. And I think maybe I'm just changing the words a little bit to put it in my own mindset, but we are using agent, or we are going to use agent, we are going to use artificial intelligence. So we need to be careful how we use the artificial intelligence. And it should be always on the benefit from the people and of course the business, but the people is the first thing. So that's my 2 cents of uh, understanding of agents.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I will say, and that was his what can humans do with AI? And I talked about going back to our design workshop, and I talked about where is the human in the loop and that interaction flow. While an AI agent can act on behalf of a user or an organization, we're not a human is still the person, and companies are going to be the ones that are responsible and accountable. And so it's important that humans are designed, are part of the flow that we create with AI agents.
Fantastic. So we're coming to the top of the hour. So it
Yeah.
just goes for me to, first of all, thank everybody in the chat for joining and asking the questions and responding to Sally's questions and so on. Thanks, Mirella, Sally, and Carlos, our human agent in the on-premise location, gave us a bit of a tour, bit of an insight into what it's like to be in an app house. That was awesome as well. So yeah, thanks for this bonus session, and I wish you a pleasant rest of day. Thanks, everybody.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thanks for joining
you.
us.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.